I'm Jessica.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're here to tell the birth story of our daughter. So we found out that we were pregnant in June of 2025. And we had a very great, smooth pregnancy. I didn't have any of the normal things that some women go through. I had a little bit of nausea, some exhaustion, but other than that, I really didn't have anything. We signed up for midwifery care in our area. We had our basic appointments every 2 weeks. We had our first ultrasound and everything was good there. And then we had a 20-week anatomy scan and everything was good there as well. We did not find out that we were having a little girl until she was born. And we got blood taken. And that's when we found out that I was O negative for the first time. So then Aaron also had to get his blood taken, and he's A positive. So that's where our journey started of what does the RhoGAM shot mean, and that is how Aaron found you guys.
So yeah, I looked up on Google if there was any articles or anything about people that were against the RhoGAM shot or had not taken it and had healthy babies and good pregnancy and all that. And Jess and I both had a very tumultuous time during COVID, standing our ground against various mandates. When we were growing up, Canada was quite a bit different, and it has changed radically over the last decade or so. I think Jess is fine with me saying this. We went to the convoy that made Canada, put Canada on the map recently.
Love those guys.
That's just a whole other episode there.
Sure.
But so I knew that it would be a minority position to reject the RhoGAM shot.
And we didn't know much about it. Our provider, which wasn't our midwife care, it was a family doctor, basically just said, you're going to get this shot at 28 weeks because of your conflicting blood types. And we were like, well, what is the shot? And, it's just routine. Oh, well, that's not good enough for us.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, the way that he phrased it was like, well, we're just going to do this, and you're going to get the shot. And I looked at Jess thinking, I don't think we're just going to get the shot without looking into this. And so, I stumbled upon your guys' website. It was like, down to birth. This sounds down to earth. It sounds really awesome. So I listened to an episode with Dr. Sarah Wickham, and over time we became more educated about RhoGAM and the risks of Jessica's blood type conflicting with the baby's blood type did not outweigh what we thought the risk could be from the shot. And we knew that we had to take a leap of faith. As we got closer to that 28-week mark, it was a conversation that we would be having, and even with family members, we were having these conversations, and it's like, Jess, you're feeling healthy, baby is kicking, baby's moving. Why would we just put something into your body? Seems like everything is going great right now, so we're not gonna do that. And then we decided not to.
Let me jump in for a minute. Tricia, will you please explain to the audience about this situation? RhoGAM, positive father, negative blood type mother, what everyone's talking about.
Right. So the concern is that when you have conflicting Rh status, one positive, one negative, the mother being negative, that if there is, when this first pregnancy happens, everything is fine. It's not generally a risk to the first baby. Mm-hmm. It's subsequent pregnancy. So when there's a mixing of the blood at the time of birth, which happens, that your body could mount an immune response to attack future babies, basically.
And may I jump in, Tricia? That's if this baby number one ends up being positive with the mother being negative.
Right.
If the baby ends up being negative, it would not be an issue. Of course, we don't know till the baby is born, which is part of the whole difficulty in this decision.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
At that time, the provider, our family doctor, was just kind of like telling us how it is. We definitely took the informed consent, knowing that I could be sensitized and that could hurt other pregnancies, but we just wanted to know that, we wanted to trust that if that's, so I'm not wording this that great, but the consequences of our decision, we weighed the pros and cons of that, and we weighed that with, because the RhoGAM shot is made up of hundreds, potentially thousands of plasma of other people that I would be taking during pregnancy. And because we were so firm on like the COVID stance and those mandates, and we don't know whose blood would be going into my body, we were just thinking that risk to that baby doesn't outweigh the risk that we know potentially from that COVID shot. So that was also a big part of our decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did an episode with Dr. Sarah Wickham, not particularly on this, but then we did one on women who both accepted and declined RhoGAM. And for women who did decline the COVID vaccine, because we did just mass vaccinate, millions and millions of people. There's just so many questions. They're still coming out with the effect of that at this point. That actually did play a role into more women declining. So once you made that decision, why don't you tell us what happened after that leading into your birth?
So yes, we made a decision which we were really at peace with. And then everything was going pretty okay. And then I actually reached out to you guys because I was measuring small. So we got a third ultrasound, which we know now that we didn't really need on the other side of birth. And then we got to our 39-week appointment, and induction was already getting spoken about. That's kind of the standard for, I don't know if that's the standard in the States, but standard here. Once you get to 39 weeks, they want to talk about induction, including our midwives, but more for informed consent and all that good stuff. But we declined to be induced at 40 weeks on my due date because I was like, this doesn't seem, I don't feel like I'm ready and I don't want to push it. Again, we've listened to a ton of your guys' episodes on the decision making around Pitocin, and that's not even FDA approved unless it's for medical. But for us, healthy baby, healthy heart rate, great blood pressure, I was doing great, so it just didn't make sense. So we just kept declining Pitocin. And then we did give our midwives a little bit of a run for their money because we kept declining, and we finally scheduled an induction at 43 weeks.
What?
Yep.
Just to give them an answer.
Just to give them an answer, because we were like, we kind of need this stress off of our back.
That is amazing.
Were you feeling stressed at that point about your baby's well-being, or did you still feel perfectly fine that I just want to await spontaneous labor and I'm really making this choice to appease the midwives?
Yeah, definitely was just making the choice to appease midwives and family, just to give them a date. But I knew that I felt okay, and I knew that the baby was okay. Doing those constant checks, doing the kick checks, it's like there's nothing wrong with the baby. And that we did do non-stress tests to check the heart rate as well for consistency, and everything was perfectly fine. I just knew that my body wasn't ready. So then we scheduled it. We did do a couple of the membrane sweeps just to kind of help get everything kind of kicking off, I guess. And then we did all the other natural stuff, all the spicy food, mild circuit. And at our last appointment with our midwives was the day before I went into labor. And she said that your cervix is very favorable. And she said, I can't believe, based on how your cervix feels, that you're a first-time mom. It seems like you've already had kids based on how your cervix is feeling. And that was just a testament of, so my body's actually finally getting ready to birth this baby.
It's just interesting because since they're pushing women at 39 weeks to start inducing, she probably doesn't feel a ton of ready, ripe cervixes, especially for first-time moms who are more likely to go into labor on average around at 41 weeks. So, yeah. It misleads them into what women feel like right before labor,
And just imagine how unready your baby would have been at 39
I know.
weeks.
Yeah.
That's 4 weeks. 4 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were also wondering, if you don't mind, we were also wondering about Jessica's due date because she seemed to be measuring small. But then once we got 2 weeks ahead of that, then she seemed to get up to a very healthy size, I guess. It seemed like the baby was growing at a good rate at that point. And so we were questioning the due date, how accurate that is. And I just wanted to throw into the membrane sweep to all these different medical procedures that are offered. It's always good to question and to look into yourself. And so even that, it seemed innocuous. It seemed like something that, okay, that's pretty standard to do. But even that, we weighed quite heavily. It weighed on us that we should know for sure that it's okay that we're going to be doing this. Mm-hmm. There are still some risk that Jessica could get hurt, or we could induce labor too early still, because it is a mechanical way of inducing, right? So the membrane sweep, we did decide to go with that. So the pressure was on a little bit, and then we decided, okay.
Just a little fun fact, I had a consult with a postpartum woman today, and her providers told her baby was over 8 pounds, and at birth the baby was 5 pounds 10 ounces. They also told her that the cord was around the neck, and it wasn't. And they also told her that there was a knot in the cord, and there wasn't.
Wow, all that added stress.
Yep.
Can I ask you really quickly about your due date, how you got your due date? How was it determined?
So it was determined the first day of my last period and the dating ultrasound.
Did you have an early dating ultrasound in the 10 to 12 week range when you did the blood work?
Yeah, it was 10 weeks when we had our dating ultrasound.
Yeah, so those are pretty accurate. So your due date was probably pretty accurate.
At this point in the story, how far along were you now?
42 weeks and 5 days.
Wow, I can't believe this. You booked an induction at 43 weeks, which is first of all bold, so congratulations. I love it. But second, it's also preposterous because few women, not none, I've worked with several, but few women go that far, and somehow you actually had it right there. It's truly incredible. So you're 42 and 5, and you do have that induction date. Of course, you could always decline it and move it, but you did have that looming, which we never thought would happen. Wow.
We didn't either.
It's also a good thing you got your family off your backs, because most people get tremendously stressed because the family is freaking out by now. If you had said, we're maybe going to be induced at 40 weeks and 3 days, they would be on you for weeks now saying, what happened with your induction? Why are you still pregnant? Wow. Okay. So what happened?
Yeah. So then that is why we booked the induction too, is to get everyone off our back, because the amount of people that were asking us about it. And so common was, how far are the doctors going to let you go? And I think it's pretty clear that Aaron and I were very firm in protecting ourselves. So our response every time was, they're not letting us do anything. Like, we're telling them what to do. A lot of people, I think, that might have ruffled feathers, but we had to say it.
A lot of our family was very understanding too, though.
For sure.
It was just all the people that asked, how far are you going to go? How far are they going to let you go? There was a lot of people that understood too. So we're surrounded by a lot of, we come from a Christian background, and a lot of people also took the same stance as us, I guess, in our family. There were some that were worried for us too.
Oh, for sure.
And we empathized with their concern, but we also just felt in our spirit that we were doing the right thing.
For sure.
Well, the whole affectionate joke about Canadians, if it's true, is that they're very reasonable, compliant. They don't like discord, So here it is, like, what do you mean you're saying no to your doctor of all people? It's just it's culturally not something. Americans as a culture, like we're kind of like, it's like a story of rebellion. So it's always kind of a badge people wear when they're a little rebellious. But your culture is notably polite and compliant, and it's just very interesting. I know I talk about culture all the time, but I don't think people have a clue how very deeply it affects who we are. It's an incredibly powerful force in who we are. So it makes your story all the more interesting, honestly.
Thank you.
If you were from Texas, this wouldn't carry half this weight.
We'd love to move down there someday.
Yeah,
You just might belong there.
We'll meet you there. We'll meet you there.
Our family was great, and they prayed a lot for us, and they prayed for like good decision making too, and because they wanted us to follow like our gut and our instincts. And so, we're very, very grateful for that. And our midwives were also great, because they kept saying our job is to make sure you have informed consent, which was like, they were definitely on our team, which was what we really needed. So then 42 and 5 is when labor actually started. So it was after that last midwife appointment. We went for a walk with my mother-in-law. And and then it started at 5 p.m. that night. It was intense. I didn't have like the slow, oh, maybe I'm having like 2 contractions an hour. It went right into every 6 minutes for 30 seconds. So it was very intense. And we did plan a home birth, but in Ontario, after 40 weeks, your provider can no longer attend a home birth. So we planned for a hospital birth.
But in Ontario, at 42 weeks, your midwives, the midwife team, they don't feel comfortable at that point to do a home birth. So that was the cutoff for doing a home birth. That was out of the question for us, which we were looking forward to quite a bit.
Yeah. So then we, at that 42 and 5, went into labor. And then we went to the hospital at around 10:30 that night. It was about a 45-minute drive for us. So I was having those contractions for a minute every 4 minutes for 45 minutes in the car, which was not pleasant. And then we got into triage, and my water still hadn't broken at this point. And we're in triage, and our midwife was talking about breaking our water. And I was like, there's no way. I've waited so long to go into spontaneous labor. But we talked about the risk of not having the water broken and having the water broken. But she said, we're not there yet. We can walk around for 2 hours and kind of see what happens. And then we got admitted into labor and delivery room, and still that conversation of getting the water broken. But I really was like, I'm not supposed to get my water broken. Like, I've come this far. I'm almost at 43 weeks. We just have to wait. We get into the labor delivery room at around 11:30, and I get into the gown, and at 11:35, my water broke spontaneously. And I was like, I can't believe it. We just had this long conversation about breaking my water, and now it doesn't even matter because it already broke. Labor was very intense, of course. I tried all the things, the comb, the tense machine.
Positions.
So many different positions, peanut ball, like all those things. And it was pretty rough for 6 hours. And we did one cervical check after water was broken, because again, listening to your guys' podcast, learn more about the risk of all those cervical checks. So we only did one because I needed, in my brain, I just needed to know, are we getting anywhere at all? And I was already at 8 centimeters, and I couldn't believe it. So I was like, and then I pushed for about an hour and a half, and then our daughter was born, and it was incredible.
Mm-hmm. At 5:13 in the morning.
5:13 in the morning. At 42 weeks and 6 days.
Would you have gone for the induction had you continued with your pregnancy a few more days? Would you have actually done it at 43 weeks?
No, we were planning on canceling the appointment.
It was funny. Jess was doing the final pushes. It might have been her third last push there. And the midwife said, well, I think it's clear that we're not having that induction appointment tomorrow.
She was probably so relieved. How were your midwives treating you in those last weeks when you were still pregnant at 42 plus 5? What were they like?
They were very calm. Our midwives were very calm. They are both all about informed consent, but I could tell that they were getting a little bit nervous. They knew the stats of like the still birth, which still is relatively low, but they did like repeat themselves a lot because I think they just wanted us to be really firm in our decision, especially as first-time parents, first-time birth. Like we obviously know as much as we can get from your guys' podcast and reading, but of course we don't have that medical training. So I think we were making them a bit nervous. But I think at the end, they really appreciated how much we took a stance, because there was another woman on a different midwife team that was also 42 weeks and 6 days when she gave birth. And we are the 2 longest in like Thames Valley care that have gone that long. So I hope and I think it definitely gave them confidence, but they still treated us well. And they did say at one point, it's your guys' baby. As long as I've done my job in giving you informed consent, that's all I can do.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to hear that. I thought they were a little more forceful than that. Is this common up there for there to be so much respect and flexibility? I mean, this is it's state run, is it not? Like, don't they have policies that are basically applicable across, is it across the land or the provinces? How does that work?
We have Ontario Health Insurance Plan. So that's in Ontario. And yeah, our Thames Valley midwives fall under that OHIP is the acronym CARE. So they do have policies and procedures. I don't know if it would have been different if we were with an OB, but our midwives did say, like, we can't force you to go into the hospital and get induced.
Well, thank God for that. So do you have informed consent laws there?
Yeah, there are some on the books. Obviously, they disregarded them during COVID for certain things, right?
Yes.
They were, our laws were, a lot of things were contradicted in our laws. Like we do, I envy the American Constitution in a lot of ways. Canada has a softer version, and it can be overridden a lot of the time. If the government deems something to be a right to be, if there's enough of a threat, then they can take away rights, and they have to basically prove that it was worth doing, that there was enough of a threat to do so. But as far as the medical part of it, yeah, a lot of our taxes go towards healthcare. And I think the midwives, they have their own personal stance on things. They have their own personal beliefs. And they have to recommend things that they're taught to do. They have to recommend things that they're told that they have to say. But we also can tell them no, like, I don't want that. I don't want this. And I think a lot of it, they're doing their job, even though they might be pushing things that we don't agree with. They have to take a neutral stance still.
My understanding in Canada and my experience in Canada is the liability concerns there are far, far less than the United States. Your midwives are a lot less concerned about getting sued for a bad outcome than practitioners in the US. I mean, so much of the pressure in the United States comes from liability. It's almost all from liability. In the United States, we can sue for an unlimited amount of money, and we're very sue happy here. Whereas in Canada, it's just not the norm.
The other major difference that we have to mention in the conversation is that hospitals here are literal corporations, and they are for-profit entities. And obviously that conflict of interest complicates birth terribly. Mm-hmm. And there is pressure on doctors to drive revenue, which is it's insane when you think about it. It would truly be like telling your local firehouse that they have to turn a profit. I mean, it just changes the way everything happens. So that's the other major difference. We are very litigious as a society, and doctors, it's convenient for them to say, oh, well, I have to do it because I don't want to be sued. But there is the part they never talk about is that when they're in their hospital administration meetings, they are talking about revenue. That is what the conversation is, driving revenue, which is very unfortunate. So we have more freedom, thank God. I hear what you're saying about our Constitution. I'm so grateful for our Constitution. I grew up not having a clue how very valuable and precious it is. I don't think anyone really gets it until they get older. But that is the other part of the story. It's so different culturally in every way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You do have better birth outcomes than we do.
Yeah, and our midwives too. I should add to, in our town, our hospital is a level 1 hospital. So they also made a great recommendation for us to deliver in London, which is a level 3 hospital, and they also had a NICU. So they also gave that great recommendation because they felt more comfortable there because I was so far past that it was like the NICU would be there. So that was a great recommendation that they gave, because our hospital in our town has a very high cesarean rate because they don't have an OB on call, in the facility at all times. They're always on call. So they have a lot of births that end up with medical interventions and then a cesarean at the end because they don't have the resources to let a mom have a natural birth without there being distress to a child, like the baby and the mom. Mm-hmm. So they also gave that recommendation.
Yeah, and just for our listener, and I know you'll be surprised that I feel the need for the clarification, but when almost any American hears London, they're only thinking of the UK. They're thinking of England. So you do mean London, Ontario, of course. I know you know England, but I want to make sure that our listener, like, why the heck would they ship them over to England? And that it's true. We never think. So that's interesting as well. Okay.
So, did either of you ever at any point, as you went from 40 to 41 to 42 to 42 and a half weeks, did you ever have any worries? Was there ever any doubt in your mind, or did you just feel completely cool, confident, and comfortable the whole way through?
I think there was definitely points that I was starting to get very anxious because I took off work 2 weeks before my due date. So I was home for 5 weeks without anyone else here besides my lovely dog. So I think like there were certain days when I was like getting texts from family members about like, how am I feeling, or how long are the doctors going to let you go? Those types of messages, even though they were coming from a good place, because they cared. But I think it started to weigh on me when I was home by myself of like, are we making the right decision?
You know what they say, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. It's like if we're going to get anxious and worry and have scenarios that are really going to bring us to another place, it's when we have a lot of time on our hands, we're not with other people, and the mind can just do all sorts of things. So that had to be difficult.
Yeah, it was. So I had to open up my Bible and I actually memorized a psalm that we said a lot during the last couple of weeks and during labor as well. And it's wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. And I just kept saying it because I was like, I just have to wait. I just have to be patient. I've never had to exercise so much patience. So that helped with the doubt. Because my biggest fear, of course, was losing the baby, myself getting hurt. And I didn't want my family members and friends, I didn't want their fears to be confirmed, that if there was something negative that happened. So I was nervous about that. I didn't want them to be right.
Well, I hope you appreciate how lucky you both are to have been on the same page, because that isn't that common. You have the couples, this is actually virtually every couple, where the mom is just way more informed than the father because she's doing all the research and basically educating him and saying to him once in a while, you need to read this or you need to listen to this. So she's more informed no matter what kind of birth she wants. But you often have couples who aren't on the same page, and especially for fathers, they're coming from a different place. Their whole thing is just, for a man, when you say, what do you want out of your birth? Usually the first thing out of his mind is just, please just give me a healthy baby and mother at the end of this. Like, please give me a healthy family and everyone alive and well. And for the mother, her wishes, of course, begin and end with that, but she has a lot to say in the middle. Like, I don't want to feel bullied, traumatized, hurt, threatened. I want to feel safe, and I want it to be beautiful, and I want a nice story to tell. And she knows one potential outcome is trauma. So it's very different. And there's a lot of added stress for couples when the dad is anxious. And I don't fault these men at all. This would have been me before I was informed as a woman. If he's putting pressure on her to be induced, it's hard. And you guys sound like you were pretty much on the same page with everything. Did it feel that way? It's lucky, huh? Or
Yes, we're very blessed.
Yeah. We've been together for 11 years now. Mm-hmm. And there isn't that much that we disagree on, to be honest. And I feel like I can say that I didn't feel anxious during the time that we were waiting. Jessica just seemed so healthy to me, and the baby was always kicking. I'm a simple man. If I see my wife is glowing, she's got the pregnant glow, and the baby's kicking, it seems like they're healthy. Let's just keep going. The woman's body knows what to do when the time is right, is how I felt. And then when Jessica was feeling anxious, I knew, hey, I'm not the one carrying the child. So I'm just going to try to comfort her and allow her to go through the motions, but also I just wanted to be there for her and encourage her, like, hey, we've made the decision. Let's not falter, on the RhoGAM shot. Let's go back to that. We've made the decision. Let's just be at peace at what we've decided, not to get induced, and let's just keep rocking. And I trust that your body's going to do what it's supposed to do when the time is here. And we also thought, God knows the baby's birthday. Yeah. We're gonna just keep waiting, and paid off in the end because Jessica was healthy, baby was healthy, and I was so thankful. I was so thankful for that. So, yeah.
And your gut instinct was spot on. Yours was the unwavering gut instinct of all these parties. You were the one who was just right all along, huh?
I know, don't tell him.
This
No,
is
don't
right.
It sounds that way.
And I needed that though. Like I needed, like I am very blessed because if he would have wavered, then yeah, if he would have been like, I think we should get induced, then I probably would have been like, okay, like I don't really know what to do. Especially at the end, it was just kind of like, someone just tell me what to do because I didn't want to make the wrong decision. So then Aaron like led us in a lot of that. So it was like, okay, like I wouldn't blame him obviously if anything happened, but it's like, okay, I'm just gonna follow the motions, and you're seeing it from the outside of the fishbowl of like, yeah, seeing these things. The heart rate is good. There's literally nothing going on. Your blood pressure's been perfect this whole time. Like lots of reminders of what was going well instead of what, oh, this might happen maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love how Aaron explained it. You just looked at your wife, saw that she was glowing and healthy, and the baby was moving. And sometimes we just really need that simple male brain to just say, "There's no problem here. Look at you. You feel good. You look good. There's no problem."
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
And when she was really feeling a little bit anxious, then I just tried to calm her down, and we prayed through it. But
And then he'd say, listen to this episode of Down to Birth. I said, okay.